Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I am your host, Jacob Grondy, reporting for the Main Event Marks YouTube channel. You can also check me out on Spotify, Apple Music. Just Google Curtain Jerkin. Don't hit images, but just look in the links. Hopefully, my podcast is up there. I feel like I've been slipping a little bit. I feel like WrestleMania, I was killing it. I was putting out a podcast a day. They're little 15, 20-minute mini-sodes. I enjoyed doing it, but then it kept, getting away from me. And now I'm back at it, putting out these like once a week, 45-minute kind of recap shows. I want to get back to smaller shows, 20-minute shows, about 3 times a week. That's my goal. Just so you guys know, I'm going to just kind of say it into existence, into this microphone, and hopefully it comes true. Because, you don't want to do a lot of marathon shows. I feel like not a lot of people are going to be listening to those shows. I don't know. Maybe you do. Let me know in the comments below which ones you like. Let me know on Twitter at JGProWrestling which ones you like, or hit up my Instagram at runningdown_DRM. But, it's a lot going on in the world of wrestling, and I'm here to talk about it. AEW, of course, a lot of stuff going on in AEW, as always. A lot of stuff going on in front of the screen, a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And even though they claim that there's a show called Backstage Access, there's a few stuff they don't want to actually talk about on screen. I mean, they didn't bring up CM Punk during the All Access show, so that kind of shows you that there's something going on there, a little more than meets the eye on that show. And that, of course, not everything's going to be all access. It's all access in quotes. It's just the name of the show. It's not the reality of the situation. It's no surprise that the Elite, Jericho, Moxley, Adam Page, probably a few others, aren't fans of Punk in AEW. I really don't have to go into what happened last October after All Out. Punk wants back in. That's rumors, hearsay, that Punk wants to come back to AEW. Rumors a lot of people won't work with him. So another rumor, a rumor within that rumor, is that Tony Khan's solution to all this is to have 2 shows. One show, the Elite show on Dynamite Wednesday nights, and the other show, Punk's show, more or less, on Saturday nights. AEW Collision is what it's called. Like kind of a soft brand split, broken down between who would work with Punk and who won't. Brand splits are okay. It allows more talent to get more TV, but for some reason, the reasoning for this happening, it is kind of lame. Just knowing the reason that 2 wrestlers are wrestling each other week to week is because, without a shadow of a doubt that they get along backstage and there's no actual problem they have, kind of ruins the magic of a pro wrestling show a little bit. I know that, that we know and they know that it's kind of all fake, but come on, man, there's got to be some kind of illusion there, that they don't like each other. And then, if they actually don't like each other, you can play into that as well, but, that might be a little too hard for some people to do. I know this is a bit of a get off my lawn element to this opinion, but that's how I feel. And there'll also be a lot of AEW week to week. I mean, you got 2 hours of Dynamite, 1 hour of Rampage, 2 hours of Collision. Then you got 4 hours of YouTube, 4 hours of a pay-per-view. So they're asking for 13 plus hours some weeks to watch AEW. And I think that's a little too much. That's a big reason personally why I only watch the big shows on WWE, because I feel like 5 hours is too much. And then if you watch NXT, it's 7, Main Event and Level Up, whatever you want to watch. I guess you're technically supposed to watch 9 hours with a 3-hour pay-per-view. So yeah, you're supposed to watch, upwards of 12 hours of WWE a week some weeks, and I think that's too much. That's why I only watch the big shows. And I think if people only start watching the big shows, or only watch half the shows, or only tune in whenever their guy is on, I think that kind of will make people stop watching AEW so religiously. And I think the cult-like atmosphere of their fan base is a big reason why people like AEW. It's a big reason why the crowds come and they chant. And I think that cult-like fan base is a reason that TBS and TNT kind of fuck with AEW in the first place. So I don't know if, I think they might be spreading themselves too thin here. They do have a big roster. I'm not talking about spreading themselves thin on that side of things, but creatively, I think they're going to be able to spread themselves too thin. And I think their fan base is going to, maybe have stuff to do on Saturday night. Maybe have, not, have something to do on Wednesday night because they know it's going to be coming up on Saturday night. Stuff like that. But, time will tell. I'll definitely be watching AEW Collision if it comes out to see if I like it, and I'll probably talk about it on the show. But I did watch Rampage, and I'm about to talk about that on this show right now. FTR re-signing with AEW. Fuck yeah, I'm excited about that. Jeff Hardy's back, and the Hardys, Hook and Isaiah Cassidy challenged the Firm at a Hardy compound match, or whatever they're going to call it here. Jericho Appreciation Society dropping some sick ass rhymes, getting attacked by the Acclaimed, and the Acclaimed try to cut off Daddy Magic's nipples. You heard that correctly. It was fun. It was shocking. It was definitely pro wrestling. What a ridiculous series of events that happened on Rampage. That was definitely my favorite part of Rampage, or that was probably my favorite part. The idea of this guy getting his nipples cut off was probably my favorite part of AEW television this week. Cracked me up laughing. Had to call my girlfriend in the room and show her. Good shit here. Good shit. You gotta say it's appointment television. Maybe there's gonna be a nipples on a pole match or something like that. We'll have to keep tuning in and seeing. I know at one point there was rumors that WWE Creative wanted Triple H to shave the people's eyebrows off, but they decided not to do that. But who knows what's going to happen with Daddy Magic's nipples? Almost as synonymous with, I don't know where I'm going. Daddy Magic's nipples are to Daddy Magic as The Rock's eyebrows are to The Rock, maybe. Who knows? Going over to Dynamite, Jungle Boy comes out, interrupted by Sammy, who's interrupted by Darby. The big test for these three here. They had the first segment on the show with no former, WWE guys out there. It was clunky. It was awkward. It had its moments, but ultimately saved by MJF coming out and mentioning that there will be a bit of a tournament where Darby gets a bye because he just pulled a name out of a hat. Sammy and Jungle Boy wrestled each other on that show to wrestle Darby, and the winner of all that wrestles MJF. Later on in the show, MJF pays Sammy to maybe beat Jungle Boy and Darby and, throw the match with him down the line. Wardlow gets a promo. Arn will be in Wardlow's corner tonight for the TNT title match. I like that. Someone attacked Mark Briscoe. Everyone loves Mark, so everyone's back there. So lo and behold, we do have a 8-man tag with Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and FTR next week. I was kind of lost in the reasoning of this one, but FTR doesn't trust Jay and Jeff, and they're kind of suspiciously joining the team to help Mark Briscoe. The Elite come out, call out Blackpool Combat Club. Danielson comes on the screen. Blackpool attack from behind, and they brawl. I like this brawl because it wasn't just a bunch of weak punches, which is most AEW brawls. These guys were hitting some moves on each other. Northern Lights into a Northern Lights. My favorite move from Matt Jackson was connecting. Nick Jackson attacking Claudio. I mean, come on there. I mean, we all know who'd win that in an actual fight, but this was a wrestling match. Blackpool gets the upper hand. Takeshita comes out and makes the save after Don Callis runs out there, thinks better of it, and runs back. General laugh from the crowd. That was funny. But no one was laughing in this next segment where Jericho comes out, interrupted by Adam Cole. Cole says he respects Jericho. Jericho says he has zero respect for Adam Cole and attacks Cole along with Garcia. Britt comes out, bitch slaps Jericho. You can always tell the top female in the backstage, like politics and everything, by who is bitch slapping dudes on the wrestling show. I mean, you got Stephanie McMahon, you got Karen Angle / Karen Jarrett in TNA, and now you have Britt Baker. So she's the head bitch in charge, as they say backstage, or so it seems, because she's out there bitch slapping dudes. That's who is the head bitch in charge backstage at a wrestling company or wrestling show, is the one bitch slapping dudes out on screen. It's just true. Look back in history, the rule holds up. Outcasts come out, kind of cool camera shot. They just kind of appear. They look like they're up to no good, and they weren't. They attack Britt Baker, who's just out there to protect her husband, and then the six sons of bitches handcuff Adam Cole to the rope while the Outcasts beat on Britt Baker. Where's Jamie Hayter? No one knows. Where's Rebel? Where's Riho? Where's Sky Blue? No one knows. There's just a Singapore cane and a crying boyfriend. With all that gone, where you don't think about why Britt's friends weren't there or why Britt's family didn't come out. I mean, they were at ringside earlier on in the show. It was a cool scene. Like, if you were flipping through the channels and you saw it, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? I think you'd watch. You might know who Saray is. You might know who Chris Jericho is. I don't think you'd be changing the channel on this. This was some kind of like Clockwork Orange kind of shit playing out in the wrestling ring. It wasn't perfect, but it definitely heated up this Jericho-Adam Cole feud, which they kind of, at this point, were just kind of staring at each other while Dynamite went out the air. But here, there's, some stake to that sizzle. But as you guys know, every week I rank all the matches from Dynamite and Rampage week to from worst to first, and we had 9 matches this week. Number 9, Ty Valkyrie versus Emi Sakura. This was a fun match. I guess every match was good because I like this match looking back. Emi Sakura got some offense going, but ultimately, Jade comes out and Ty gets the victory. Jade sends the baddie to slaughter, and then that's when Jade hits the Jaded on Taya, and that feud keeps going. Who's hits the move better? I'm not sure. We'll find out. Number 8, the Outcasts versus Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Hometown Britt Baker here, brawling on the ramp, beating Britt's ass in front of her own family here. Double suplex from Hayter. Baker gets the hot tag. Storm 0, 1, 2, no. Ruby ends up tapping out to the lockjaw to the hometown girl. Fun match as well. I mean, all these matches are good. 2.0 and Hager versus the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. This match wasn't as good as the segment on Rampage, but it was pretty good. The Acclaimed get the victory after Cool Hand Luke gets caught with the loaded comb. Number 6, Jarrett, Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh versus Angelico, Serpentico, Luther, and Man Scout Jake Manning. Jake Manning, wrestler from North Carolina. Been watching him for a long time. He's been wrestling for a long time. Seen him wrestle Jushin Thunder Liger. Seen him wrestle the Great Khali. Serpentico getting thrown by Satnam Singh was awesome. A chokeslam by Satnam Singh to the Man Scout. Froggy Bow 1, 2, 3. Mark Briscoe wins for his team. You gotta love seeing the Man Scout out there. Number 5, Jungle Boy versus Sean Spears. Sean Spears is back. Darby and Sammy watching from backstage. Tilt-a-whirl from Spears. Doesn't get the win, but a roll-up from Jungle Boy does, and he steals one. Main eventing Rampage and Dynamite this week is Jungle Boy. Give it up to him. Wardlow versus Hobbs for the TNT title. Number 4, Arn on the side of Wardlow. Hobbs with QT in his corner. Hobbs in control. Swanton from Wardlow. QTV girl trying to distract Wardlow. Kind of does. Arn stops it. Spinebuster from Hobbs. 1, 2, no. Arn pulls out the pointer finger on QT, sending him running to the back after he ate a loaded boot from Pentagon, or not a loaded boot, but ate a boot from Pentagon. Powerbomb Symphony 1, 2, 3. Wardlow is now the 3-time TNT champion. All feels right in the world when Wardlow is the TNT champion. I love it when Wardlow is the champion. Now he's got it for 3 times. Wardlow and Hobbs was a great match, but it didn't make the podium. The top 3 here. We have Commander versus Switchblade, and with Juice Robinson in Switchblade's corner. Spears watching for some reason. Commander does some sloppy shit, kind of pulls it off. Moonsault, lands on his feet on the outside. Switchblade drops him on the apron. Commander trying to run the ropes. Crowd wants it. Switchblade doesn't. He ends up doing it. Huge moonsault. Gets caught in the Blade Runner there. 1, 2, 3. Switchblade gets the victory. Spears rates the match at 5. Juice hates that, attacks him. Starks makes the save, and now somehow Shawn Spears is tied up in this Bullet Club Gold versus Ricky Starks storyline. Why not? Why? I don't know, but why not? Shawn Spears is, I guess, a good enough ally for Ricky Starks. Best Friends versus Aussie Open. The Curtain Jerker for Rampage is number 2, second best match on AEW television this week. Beretta getting passed around like a rag doll in the suplex position from the Aussies. Double suplex from the Best Friends. That was kind of cool. Huge pile driver. Coriolis, 1, 2, 3. Aussie Open win. Get the victory. Big week for Aussie Open. Big year for Aussie Open. But that's not the number 1 match. The number 1 match is the main event from Dynamite. Sammy Guevara versus Jungle Boy. This match was nuts. Huge Fosbury flop from Sammy. Hurricane Rana over the top rope to the apron, or over the top rope from the apron to the floor by Jack Perry. Spanish Fly, both men down. Destroyer by Jungle Boy. Implant DDT by Sammy. 1, 2. Jungle Boy kicks out, locks in the snare trap. Sammy gets to the ropes. Sammy drop kicks Jungle Boy from the top turnbuckle, and they hit the edge of the table. Too many clean table bumps here. I like a little Japanese table in my table bumps. A little sloppy shit here from time to time makes the table bumps stand out a bit. I don't really like the breaking of the table, kind of like the WWE commentators table do, especially if it's multiple times a show. It gets kind of silly, gets kind of Looney Toony. But this one here where they just hit the edge of it, I thought was a little bit more effective than if he kind of went through it and the table broke perfectly. But that's nitpicky here. Table bumps are table bumps. Always fun to see. MJF comes out, clocks Jungle Boy with a ring. Sammy glad to take the 10 count victory, celebrating like a jackass. MJF reminding everyone that he's a son of a bitch. And we go off the air. And that's AEW Dynamite from this week. I thought it was a good show. It seems like they're doing a lot more angles now. I mean, 2 big angles on the show. The Elite brawling with Blackpool. And then you had the Singapore Kane with JAS. You're setting up for the Hardy Compound, which is a wrestling match kind of. A cinematic wrestling match kind of. But a big, big angle. And I mean, a few months ago, they said that they were bringing on Jeff Jarrett to kind of help with stuff like that, and you can definitely tell the difference with, I think, Jarrett and the company. If he's the one to give credit for, I would give credit for that, and I think it makes them an overall better product with these bigger angles and not just squeezing in a bunch of matches. The matches are great, don't get me wrong, but makes me kind of think that AEW can handle 2 shows. But another reason I am kind of apprehensive to be excited about the rumored new AEW show is I like other companies besides AEW and WWE. Sometimes I have a hard time catching up or following Impact Wrestling, for example. And they had 2 vacant world titles going into one of their biggest nights of their year. And honestly, as a fan of women's wrestling, Impact is the one to watch. They have the best women's division in North America today. You can't argue it. WWE could have that, but they don't really promote it like Impact promotes their women's division. And AEW women's division, I think, just lacks a lot of depth, and they definitely don't give it enough attention for it to reach the level Impact Wrestling has reached with their women's division. But the whole show was good. The Ultimate X match, Motor City Machine Guns versus Chris Bay and Ace Austin. Santino Marella had a match. Tommy Dreamer had an incredibly heartfelt promo to the point where, it kind of tugged at too many heartstrings. It was like kind of it was hard to watch, but I did feel moved doing it, so it did its job. It was just a fun show, and it was led up to two big main events, two vacant world titles. Kushida versus Steve Macklin. The champion was vacant after, the championship was vacant after the champion, of course, Josh Alexander, got injured. And here's two guys, I think, with something to prove here. Kushida was like the face of New Japan Junior Division, signed to NXT, kind of had a lackluster career there. And speaking of like lackluster career in WWE or NXT, Steve Macklin was around for years in NXT. Didn't quite do really much of anything there until he went to Impact and worked his way up the ladder, and here he is in a world title contest. Who will have their hands raised and who will be considered a good hand at the end of this? Let's see. After a bit of a banger, Steve Macklin won with a KIA. His finisher made Scott D'Amore come out and put the title on his waist. The man with the pencil, the booker in Impact, put the title on his waist. Triple H's trash is Impact Wrestling's treasure. He had a good match. And he kind of, I didn't really know too much of his character beforehand, but just seeing him cut that promo at the end there, you realize what the deal is with him. So I'm for it, but I definitely think it wasn't as good of a match as the women's match. The vacant title, Mickie James had to relinquish it because she got injured just like Josh Alexander, and I feel like this wasn't a main event because, they deserve the main event because of, X, Y, and Z. I feel like this was the main event because I don't think anyone would have been able to follow this match. Deonna Purrazzo versus Jordynne Grace. Deonna Purrazzo hits the Queen's Gambit. 1, 2, 3. Deonna Purrazzo is now the women's champion. Some people consider her the best women's wrestler in the world. I would not disagree if someone was arguing that point. But a cool thing is her and Steve Macklin are dating. They're an item, or they might be married, I'm not sure. So there's a big power couple here in the world of pro wrestling. The two Impact World Champions, Steve Macklin and Deonna Purrazzo. It's cool to see. So Impact has a new champion, and Noah kind of has a new champion as well in Jake Lee, the biggest free agent of 2022 in the world of Japanese pro wrestling. Now is Noah's world champion, going up against Nakajima, a man that Noah Faithful deems as their guy. When the title is on some legends doing their glory runs, Noah fans are like, why not Nakajima? Why don't you put the title on Nakajima instead of, maybe they'll call the guy old or something like that. Why don't you put the title on Nakajima instead of this old guy? Why don't you put the title on Nakajima? He can go when, this star of yesteryear really can't go. So this was an interesting match here. Jake in charge of the early going. Nakajima uses the rails to his advantage, brings him inside, and works snug as always, super snug. Spike, crowd wants it, 1, 2. Jake Lee kicks out. Nakajima gets the shit slapped out of him. Huge knee, 1, 2, no. Big boot, 1, 2, 3. Jake Lee retains the title. I don't know if this was the right move for New Japan. You sign a guy from All Japan, a promotion that's not as popular as you, and you have this guy who is beloved, like, Nakajima, fall to him after the guy who you've been kind of solidifying as, the next up-and-coming guy, Kitamiya, lose to him. So you risk upsetting your core base of fans to try to bring in a fan base that at the end of the day isn't as big as your fan base. I can see this upsetting, some guys who, watch Noah religiously, are part of that big Noah, like kind of like cult-like fan base that Noah kind of has, even all these years after their, I would say, their height. There's still some people that watch Noah over New Japan, watch Noah because it's the only wrestling promotion that doesn't get too goofy anymore for these people. The serious wrestling fans typically tune into Noah, it seems like. But upsetting your fan base is never really a good thing. I don't think they're going to do that. Maybe they're like testing the waters with doing that a little bit. But something that has never really upset me is Triplemania the last few years. I've loved it. The biggest wrestling promotion in Mexico, in AAA. This is their WrestleMania equivalent. It's not just a 2-night spectacle. It's a 3-night spectacle throughout the year nowadays. So it's not like night 1 and night 2 of Mania. It's more like if Mania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series was all called the same show, and it kind of had stories through those 3 shows, kind of like the old days in like 80s and 90s WWE. But this was the first one in 2023 here. It happened on April 16th, and it did not disappoint. Started out with horns playing, huge Mexican flag being brought out by this, I think, the Mexican military band. Set the stage here in this big baseball arena. One thing that I love about the modern Triplemania is the English commentary, because they have a few really intricate stipulations that if you did not know the language, you'd be completely lost in. The first match here, for example, started out as a cage match. It was kind of like a reverse battle royal. You had to climb out the cage to escape to not lose. It was 10 men in this match, and the final 2 men were going to wrestle each other later on in the night in a mask versus mask match. So there's a lot of rivalries in the cage here. 10 men. So some people wanted to stay in the cage to potentially get their rivals' mask off. Some people were just like, fuck it, I'm leaving. Some people were just diving off the cage, diving all over the place, hitting people with bottles and stuff like that. Villano 3 Jr. From the famous wrestling family was in this match. Laredo Kid, La Parca Negra, who's like this evil La Parca, was in this match. Aerostar, Octagon Jr., and hopefully I'm saying this name right. I'm going to say it a lot, so bear with me here. But Antifa's, along with Mrs. C's Jr. was in the match, and Antifa's, if I'm saying this correctly, is Mystico's brother. Mystico, of course, Sin Cara, or was one of the Sin Caras in WWE, who is now called Mystices. And Mystices Jr. was given the gimmick by La Parca, not the La Parca from WCW. That's now LA Park. But when LA Park was having a falling out with AAA, they brought in another La Parca who pretty much did the gimmick, and I think in Mexico made it way more popular than the original La Parca. They've had so then that's why LA Park, who's now called LA Park, went from La Parca to LA Park. They did have a feud, and then I think LA Park opted to keep the name LA Park and not switch back to La Parca, so then the other guy could have La Parca, and he has since passed away, sadly enough. But prior to passing, he gave the name Mr. C's Jr. to this guy who is now Mr. C's Jr., even though he has no familiar like family ties to the original Mr. C's, who was the original Mystico. Hopefully you guys understand all that, and that's why I'm telling you need English commentators on these shows, because they do explain that all to you. And I saw all this kind of happen from afar, kind of keeping up with AAA, but I can't imagine being someone new to AAA and trying to catch all that. A lot of nuance here in this feud, but later on in the evening, those 2 wrestlers, the actual brother of Mrs. C's and then someone who's called Mrs. C's Jr. wrestled later on in the program. But before that, we had Chessman, legend in AAA in the mid-2000s, have an impromptu match with Vampiro, of all people, with Mr. Iguana, kind of a standout on the mid card here in AAA. That was a fun match. I think Vampiro won, if I'm not mistaken. I know I'm reviewing the show, but there's a lot to review. I got my head hurts talking about that Mystices thing, honestly. There was a 10-man tag match on the show. Both teams represent different areas of Mexico, so kind of like a hometown feel in this one. I kind of like that aspect. This one featured a guy named La Parca, I think maybe El Hijo de La Parca, Zorro, another legend in AAA that I kind of enjoyed from watching it when I was in high school. And then just kind of reviewing my notes here, I'm getting all tangled up here. But this match featured Negro Casas, a 63-year-old wrestler, started in 1980, wrestled in WWF in the 80s and 90s, wrestled one match in AAA in 1992. I think that was the first Triplemania. But he mainly wrestled, like almost exclusively, other than a little bit here and there, in companies like WWF and New Japan. Wrestled exclusively for CMLL and Arena Mexico, at AAA's biggest competition, and now Negro Casas made the jump and was in this 10-man tag at Triplemania. 63 years old. He gets attacked by a masked man that is later revealed as Psychosis. And yeah, like I said, sometimes stipulations can get kind of very intricate in AAA. So they're having a tournament where your rival will be your tag team partner, and the losers in each tournament match advances to the point where the final two men, or the final team in the whole tournament, will wrestle each other down the line. So you had Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown. Psycho Clown, a huge star in Lucha Libre. Sam Adonis kind of has like the Art Bar Eddie Guerrero gimmick, where he's like the American guys coming in. It's kind of cool. You always have a guy like that in Lucha Libre. It's like having a guy who comes out drinking beer in pro wrestling and in American wrestling or something like that, versus Alberto El Patron, formerly Alberto Del Rio, a controversial figure in wrestling, is in AAA, teaming with Pentagon Jr. These entrances were pretty cool. Patron, dressed like a cowboy, came out trying to get that Lesnar pop. Penta came out with some Mexican rapper. Psycho coming out with the kids, dancing around. The kids love Psycho Clown. Pinto and Alberto get the win, so Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown will advance. Then we will have, after that, we got the Brother of Mystico versus the new fake Mystico. Winner loses the mask. So this was a good match. I like the brawling aspect here. They were both ripping at each other's masks the whole time, so you kind of already saw what they looked like if you could look past the blood and the contact lenses that they had in and everything like that. This was good. This was, you kind of watch the show, it gets kind of convoluted, you follow along, and then every year there's just something that like the story, you get swept up in this story here. Last year with Villano, I think 3 or 4 losing his mask was kind of epic, and this one with Mystico's brother losing his mask was huge here. But it wasn't like how it usually goes. The guy lost the mask, but he attacked his opponent that he just lost to beforehand, rips the mask off, kind of like in a temper tantrum, and then goes after Hugo Savinovich, Spanish announcing legend. He was a part of the Spanish announce table in the Attitude Era for WWF, and he's still, he's like the equivalent to JR, I would say, maybe if I'm being lazy in my comparisons. It's like JR meets Michael Cole meets like John Madden a little bit. It seems like. I'm not, maybe someone could let me know if that's accurate. But he's a legend. The guy loses the mask, goes up, yells at Hugo, just kind of still pissed off, still bitter, even with the mask on, which is kind of an interesting take on that. And then the Rivals Tag Tournament keeps going. Roosh and LA Park, the La Parka from WCW versus the Roosh that's in AEW currently, or they're teaming, versus Blue Demon and this guy DMT Azul, which is pretty much like this evil Blue Demon. This match was a bloodbath. Rush's dad shows up. L.A. Parker Jr. shows up, comes out and attacks Rush's dad. L.A. Park low blows his own partner, so his own partner can get pinned, so they can advance. So then they're one more step closer to wrestling each other. It looks like families getting involved here. This was good. And then we go into the main event matchup here. Swerve Strickland versus Rich Swann versus Commander versus Vikingo. If you know those 4 names and you didn't know about this match, you just heard those names and you probably popped huge. This match was awesome. This match was super wild. Brawling on the aisle. Swann hitting a senton. Just too many awesome stuff for me to kind of even name here. But Vikingo continues his breakout year, hitting a 630 to retain the AAA Mega title. Probably the biggest lucha show of the year. And I would say Vikingo is maybe the wrestler of the year at this point. Definitely like a breakout star of 2023 for sure. I did watch some New Japan from DC, a good wrestling show, but I felt like this show was a little too long, so I didn't want to talk about the whole show. There's a few noteworthy things. Tanahashi, the ace, seems to be injured. Wrestled in the DC show, but did not wrestle in the Philly show the next night. And Aussie Open continue their shoe-in for Tag Team of the Year of 2023, beating Motor City Machine Guns and Tanahashi and Okada in a triple threat tag team match. So now they're the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Tag Champions, as well as the IWGP Champions. So both tag belts that you can hold in the heavyweight division in New Japan, they have. So they're collecting belts. They're wrestling on AEW on their off time. They're killing it. Y'all are killing it. Hopefully you guys could follow that AAA review. It was hard for me to even explain it. Hopefully you just are enthused by my enthusiasm. I'm going to try to give you guys some more mini-sodes. So stay tuned to that. Fly high. I'm out.